brought that.
I'll set the up. Morning, call the meeting to order. DPW. I accept the motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting. John? Richard? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Jason, I see, whoops, I see you're on. Did you have a report? We didn't have you in the agenda.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I cannot hear you.
Do you have a report? We didn't have you on the agenda.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then. All right, thank you.
Wow.
So those are the others?
How do you do that?
Go ahead. Say
I got nothing.
Everything is progressed in that small hand. That's what that means. So you don't even get a little break. You got to
So the first thing I have is, you're probably all familiar with the Champlain Hudson Power Express, where they're bringing power from Canada to New York City. And I've been working with Roger on getting this road use agreement going that we need to have with them. So do you want to talk about the road use agreement? Do you understand what it is?
No, I don't know anything about it.
So they're putting, yeah, right.
So they're gonna bury lines underneath the roads and county roads in a couple places. There's an exception for towns and villages, oddly enough, in the public service law where they can just do it. They don't really need permission, but they're still going, I think, around to some of the towns to talk with you about what they're gonna look like when they're done. But with us, they have to have some kind of license agreement to do it, so we have to allow it. Obviously, we're gonna allow it, but the agreement covers basically, how they're gonna close, how they're gonna work on the roads. They're gonna try to keep them open at all costs. If they have to, they work with Deb so she knows what's going on. And then they're gonna restore them again when they're done digging them up. So it's a pretty standard agreement that we get from almost everybody that works in the roads. Because there's a lot of things in underneath the ground.
How many towns have been impacted and how many miles?
So Putnam, is it which
Dresden.
town? Oh, Dresden. Dresden?
Well, along State Road,
Oh, state, yep. And then Whitehall
all in the village.
in the village. And then it goes along a railroad for a while. Then it comes out Fort Edward. But they're doing it in stages.
Yeah,
So
so
we're
Fort
really-
Edward, we'll have roads in Fort Edward also. Or
Not our roads necessarily.
no county roads, Fort Edward.
I don't think so, but they're not really at that phase of it yet. So they have,
But there'll be town roads in Fort Edward.
I think it's just town
And then it crosses the river, right?
goes into it.
Goes into the river, goes down to around Rockland County, comes out of Rockland County, to go around apparently the critical fish spawning habitat or something like that, and then goes back in the river and down to,
Oh,
I think, Queens.
Didn't go into the river again in Fort Edward till it got way down because of the lock.
It
Then actually
actually,
going in along the railroad down.
it actually goes in the river in Green County.
Okay.
Goes down through here, Saratoga, Schenectady, Rensselaer, Albany, Green County, and then back in the river.
So yeah, it's not going in the
And then
river.
out. And back, then out, and back.
Then out in Rockland, yes.
Out in Rockland and then back in. And then
It goes in and out of a bunch of rivers, like Champlain, Hudson River.
So there's some provisions in the road agreement, having read it, that ensure things get done properly. And so that's really what Deb will be doing with Roger, is making sure that the work gets done, but more importantly, the roads, any roads impacted are restored back to where we want them to be, if not better. So that's,
Are they going to be actually in the blacktop part of the road or in just the right of way?
No, in the road.
yeah, it depends on exactly where they are, but for the most part, they are in one lane or the other. On the state road, they're on the apron.
Yep.
For the most part. And when they cross over South Bay, they're gonna take the old state road, which is the fishing piers, or now the fishing piers, they're gonna run across that way. And kind of that old farm is rejoined, and then when they're gonna break off and get into the village and then right into the railroad bed as quickly as possible. So that's
Then they go back on the state, with the old state Route 4 too.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be a linear, I saw an announcement there, it's not gonna be a linear project, so they're gonna do it, bunches of it at once and then match them up. So it's not gonna be we're just gonna start in one and work our way south. It's gonna be, we're gonna put crews all over the place and then they're all gonna meet at the proper house.
We're talking about.
The first pass
Our road.
is gonna put conduit in the road. Or all the way down through. The second pass is in 2,000 feet segments. They will put the cables through the conduit and then they'll fuse them together every 2,000 feet. So
Yeah, there's a manhole. There's an access point to it, to where you join them together, and so there's gonna be a box. in the road.
and most of the conduit will be buried in concrete.
Shielded.
How deep are they?
Depends on where they're at. So in some sections, they go under culverts.
That's what I was thinking
Generally-
about, future culvert replacement.
Yeah, no, they're going under.
They go under.
Yeah, and 6 feet, generally about 6 feet, and then get whatever they gotta do to get any directional point.
Well, when do you resurface a road? Are we going to have to provide the risers, or do they provide the risers? And you just, on your blacktop road, you pave it and put 3 inches down,
It's amazing.
and you've got every 2,000 feet.
Oh, manholes?
Your manholes every 2,000 feet. Now can't pave over them, right?
That's kind of what this agreement does. It makes sure everything gets done.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to make sure you got in there risers, that they're going to provide that when you
Correct,
pave.
correct. And that's the details of.
Yeah, those, you don't want to overlook that. I don't even like the idea of manhole every 2,000 feet in a county road.
Yeah.
Well, the villages and the towns already have that. I'm assuming.
As far as I know, they all have.
Yeah, I have
Washington
mine.
County.
Deb just got hers.
And then now this is, the county is separate from the towns or the villages. And I don't think we have any county road in Whitehall, though. In fact,
Putnam does, and we've been having conversations since it started about standards and what we expect with the final product after they get done, they doing what they need to do. So we're in sync and we're using state specs. So there's really what this is because of what Roger mentioned before with the law. The road agreement has a little bit, couple different provisions in it for the county that the towns roads don't have. So that's kind of where we are.
Did you get a copy of the plan, Jeff?
I have electronic and whatever the 6 inch
Did you get a copy of
line.
the plan?
He gave me copy.
So she's got it.
Roger, do we need a motion on this or anything? Or is it still?
Well, we're granting them a license to go into the rest of the board should really approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to allow the DPW to sign the agreement. The agreement is being ready by the county.
They second it? Any more discussion on it?
Does this go to the full board when it's?
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed?
So a place called Adirondack Action reached out and asked if we would sign their pledge to reduce road salt. We are already trying to reduce road salt, so I wanted to ask you if you were interested in that. It was sent out, so just everybody read it.
This is a feel-good resolution. There's nothing binding to this, so why are we doing feel-good things? We should only do things that have action. And I mean, it alludes that they have funding. Doesn't say it. We're the one committing ourselves to a desire. They're not committing anything to us. So to me, this is rainbows and unicorns. And it also says they're very weird that they want us to accelerate our reduction in usage. With that,
Say we do, or did, or going to,
and what do we get in return?
good feeling.
So they do provide education through a thing called SWIM. SWIM is an acronym for, but it's, the guy is always, the SWIM guy is always at the SALT Summit, which everybody's gonna be invited to this year because it's a really good education program. So,
But we can go to the educational programs without signing this memorandum.
yeah, we don't have to sign it.
And we are. I mean,
We go every week. We goes every year.
my highway goes, my highways. Because we've been in the Lake George watershed. You know, part of the initial effort to reduce road salt, so we just expanded that effort across the town. But I think in principle, we're doing this already, and I think data, I'm so sure we can resolve or sign it. So we could resolve and support it. We are. Some of the things we're already doing. But I'm not so sure I want to commit the highways to collecting data, you know, for the purpose of. That costs. That means that we don't have time for that.
We do collect data through our computer and stuff. It's been a challenge getting it to collect efficiently, but we're looking to it.
But this also kind of, this is a county resolution that kind of commits the town.
Well, it says agreed that the undersigned towns, village and county, but towns and villages wouldn't be undersigning it. So I guess I don't understand the town commitment part of that. As I don't think that's committing the towns. Right?
But what is the strong reason to do this?
I got it.
They've got funding. Their funding will support the crew with training and contacts to help you show how to reduce it. And they'll provide the funding and training of the crew.
That's already occurring.
Is that true? I mean, we're basically at the very beginning of this process. This is supposed to help us get to the next level, right?
Yeah, so this is,
Funding will help train your crew and your people on how to reduce salt.
yep, so this is in the Lake Champlain Basin is where they're trying to reduce the salt usage. And that's where we're getting our brine maker. That's where our grant is for, is through the Lake Champlain Basin program through a federal agency called NEWCPP.
But this is not that basin people. These
Right,
are
this is not the basin.
somebody else.
But they also provide education. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to work toward in DPW is as much education as we can give to the guys to better support our plan. I don't think we've done a really good job on education throughout the years. So I thought this would be a good.
Remember, reducing salt doesn't just feel good, it saves our budget too.
Right, but we're doing it without an MOU morally committing us. I don't know who this group is. It could be, who knows who they are. I just think it's not necessary, and I'm concerned about unintended consequences that we don't even know about. We do something now that makes us feel good. 3 years later, I mean, I just read it and I said, I don't think it's.
Steph, do you feel this is beneficial to you and your department to sign this?
It does provide some education through this guy who's, I think we're going to have to eventually pay somebody to educate the guys. And this was a venue to do that. Unintended consequences, I don't know. I mean, we are trying as best we can to reduce road salt usage, so.
With that, I'd like to ask Roger, where I underlined on that, this is a non-binding MOU.
Right.
Does that mean that no matter what we sign here, it's not gonna mean anything as far as legally? only shows our intent.
Yeah, there's no enforcement mechanism, so,
So we're not hurting anybody or committing to anything, and there could be possibly benefits for the DPW and training. Right?
yeah, you're committing to work within this program. Now, if you don't, there's no.
I mean,
We're already doing most of the work that's in this contract.
They're gonna wanna work with you whether you sign this thing or not, because we're one of the municipalities in this jurisdiction, so.
I guess the question is maybe for this group, more of a question. Organization, and you know, if this is something they need to secure their grant funding.
I don't know that. I don't think so.
But my bet is the more people they get to sign up, the more places they can go and say, see, we're all on board. So if they need it, no, is it gonna help them the next time they want to do something? Absolutely. The more folks the more support they can show for what they are doing, the better chance they'll have of getting funding for it.
They have 30% of the towns and villages in the basin signed up right now.
This is asking the county to join a partnership. Because it says on the third paragraph on their cover page. Can't find it right now, but they ask us to join the partnership of this Adirondack Batch. Municipalities that have signed the memorandum of understanding will be invited to join this partnership. So I think they want towns and municipalities to give them weight. But can't we do it on our own?
They did acknowledge that our county is very progressive in this already.
That's it.
Man,
So then Roger doesn't, MOU, the MOA, typically have date, length, that's open-ended forever. So if we sign this MOU, does it go on forever and ever and ever? Because most times when you have an MOU, you're gonna act on something and you have a date to do it by, and we both agree that's the case. It's a little odd that there's no.
It's not,
I guess it's the word.
I don't know, I hate to call it, what do they call it, memorandum of understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, but then it also is titled a pledge. I mean, it's just, you want to work with this program, you know, do you want to be part of the program or do you not want to be part of the program? It sounds like we already are. This is just, it's kind of like joining the Chamber of Commerce. You're going to be a good business. You're going to do all the things you want to do. If you want to join, now Chamber of Commerce will say we have all kinds of other benefits that, you know, and that's what they're saying too, which is we can provide the training and other stuff to do that. But you're going to run your business the way you're going to run your business and do what you're going to do, but you want to do it within the context of this group. And I think that's the only thing you're doing. Is deciding whether you want to get a sticker to put on your truck that says, I'm a member of the coalition.
Is it okay to,
Figuratively.
is it okay to percolate on this for a while?
Yep.
I have one more question.
First.
Dave, does the Lake Champlain Regional Planning Board have any review with the Champlain Basin program?
We actually written a lot of grants to the base, to the time program. Forum.
Excuse me. can I hear-
Partners and things like that. We do work with them, but we're not partners or anything.
So the brine program that we have, is that through the Lake Champlain Basin program? So we're already in that brine program, not through
Not through
Adirondack Action.
It is.
And who is Newey Pick?
They have everything.
Are we,
That's who we got our.
we're involved with Newey Pick? So I think we're already in,
Planning board is.
so I think we're involved in the two people we need to be involved with, Lake Champlain Basin program. And I don't know how to say that, Newey Pick.
And also the regional planning board does a lot of environmental in the areas. They're involved in that grant and help put in fancy little basins to take the water with the salt away from the river and the lake. So we've done a lot of grant programs in that also.
So the Great Lakes Fishery Commission gave money to Newey Pick. That gave money to the Lake Champlain Basin program. That's giving money to Adirondack Action.
Even us.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, this is what the grant come from, Lake Champlain Basin Program.
No, I'm talking about Adirondack action.
Yes, you said they're getting money from Lake Champlain Basin, we're getting grant from Lake Champlain.
So why do we have to have Adirondack action if we're getting money from the principals already?
So it only affect the towns in blue, it's on blue line.
It's whatever the Lake Champlain.
You would think it would only be that area.
It wouldn't affect Jackson or Easton, right?
He was
Okay,
basically,
so it's only a few, like 3 or 4 towns. but-
No,
The Lake
That's what I'm
Champlain,
asking.
it's a watershed. Hartford's watershed goes to Lake Champlain. I'm not the blue line.
That's my question.
Yeah.
We got Sue first.
And to go back to the beginning, you presented, did you present the idea that education and the DPW around road cell?
So,
That's
yeah,
why it came forward.
yes, yep, because I'm trying to, I'll be putting in my budget some more education programs, partly because we have to and mostly because we want to. And this seemed like an opportunity that would help budget. That's all.
now, the Lake Champlain Basin extends beyond the Adirondack Park. Middle is Lake Champlain Basin. Rainbow. So that includes a lot more than the Adirondack Park.
It's a whole watershed, where that watershed flows.
Part of that river flows in like that.
So endorsement of this might give you some leverage on the training program, which offsets the budget. And so the question is, but they just need something in writing so they can probably go after state and federal dollars.
They have some dollars through this swim program that they've helped the towns and villages.
Right, this is document approved.
Yep.
That's, I was gonna, just touched on, I think Daryl's suggestion to percolate on a little bit is minimal, because I think what you'll find is this group applied for new EDIC funds, and they said, we'll do these things. And this is them, so they put a grant application in and said, we'll do these things. And now this is their attempt to do those things that they got the grant money for. I think if you dug into this, you'd find that these guys are just doing the action plan that was in a grant proposal that they got funded for. I think if you dig into it, that's what you'll find is this is their grant proposal in action. I think you'll find that at the end of the rainbow on this one.
Hey,
so the question I have is if more towns and villages and counties sign up for this program, do they have better leveraging power to get more funding for this area?
Sure. No, or wouldn't hurt.
Usually that happens, Dave.
I think that's the point, of getting these support statements.
So what's the negative of doing this?
I think the negative is that we then start doing a lot of these things, and I think the best inoculation against unintended consequences, that we do none of these things that don't really result in anything tangible. It's just a wispy idea that we may get some funding.
Well, we are getting, we're part of, we got additional funding, can't we? Isn't that the point of this?
Yes. Well, we get training through this, yes. And I'm sure that everything is going towards salt reduction. There's a salt task force where county highway superintendents are on it, and they're meeting now. They're trying to reduce it, especially in the Adirondacks, but across the entire state. So I've always thought since I started here that the future is the reduction of the road salt, and it's coming to fruition everywhere else.
So if we did join this, we could always withdraw if the conditions were correct.
Yes.
If you realize we even have issues, a lot of these things go so far under the radar that 5 years later, it's inbred in you.
So Deb, I mean, ultimately, we can leverage this to reduce road salt on state roads. configuration of your trucks are normal, they're really tailored towards the state road. environment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
With all due respect to Daryl's comment, pushing this off till next month's DPW meeting to accomplish what is it you're gonna learn? Get done between now and then, make a better decision. Just, if there's nothing, then do it now. If it's something, make that a task that needs to be accomplished between now and then.
My point was that, you know, generally you're a little smarter on this.
Right, what's that process? You know, in the process now, we won't get any smarter. I tend to go back.
If you summarize up what's being said, what we've determined with what we know. What they want this for is to create validity for them. That's really all it, they want us to recognize them as a resource, as a valid group. And if they get that recognition, there's possible funding benefits for us from it. That's really all this is. So like you said, Dana, do we want to validate them? And what's the harm if we do validate them? That's really all we're doing. It's not doing anything, not guaranteeing anything. It's just saying we're recognizing them as being somebody that's helping the salt cause. That's all this is. The benefit is maybe we'll get some education, but the best thing is what they want. They want to be recognized as being valid. And do we want to do that? And I don't know, a month from now, I agree with Matt. We'll know today. I mean, do we want to validate? And if we do, vote for it. If we don't, if we say that's one more group in the Adirondacks we don't want, then we don't try and validate. Wouldn't you say that kind of sums it up?
Dana, did you?
Yes, the one thing in here that they say they will do is they will provide detailed water quality reports to highlight the impact of road salt contamination in the lakes and streams and drinking water within the municipality. There's already people that do that, right?
they have a, called the Watershed Institute up at Paul Smith College, which is gathering on.
So this is a redundant way to get money to do the same thing.
Does Paul Smith call the towns? Because it says in his agreement, we're going to encourage the towns to collect the data. And they're going to summarize it and give it back to us on the overall. No, I think what we're doing is what we need to do is hash this out and say, do we want to do it?
I'm gonna ask, is there a motion to sign the agreement?
Oh, I'll make that motion.
And
Keep going on. Let's get this thing. I want to get it over.
we have a second from John. But ask for discussion one more time.
Let's hash it out. Do we want to validate them or not?
And I
I
have,
don't.
That's
That's kind of obvious.
That's good.
Water testing,
So this has to go to the full board, right?
Yeah,
Right,
it should, yeah.
okay, so, if we move forward to full board, still have time to get information. I'll get with Beth, I'm sure she knows this group. In fact, I think Brittany was, a long time ago, was part of this group. That was her name, she's from Saranac Lake.
Right.
But, we'll get validation, a lot more information before then.
Yeah, that was the purpose of the variance.
Okay,
To
all right.
validate,
Yeah.
you know, I don't really sort of.
Yeah.
There are certain things that,
for this water testing that was mentioned here, I think that could be valuable in a lot of different ways, especially with Lake Champlain Basin. Lake Champlain, that's it per se. The canal's not tested per se. And that can be used in a lot of different things, including involving that group called Burlington. and Lake Champlain.
there's a lot of organizations out there, I don't disagree in principle with it, that's why I don't know enough about the organization.
all in favor of the motion to move this to the board to sign the agreement, say aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed unless I become a floodplain manager also. Because it's
That's
kind
the
of,
new
that's
effort.
kind of in that
That's
area.
the new
Flood,
effort right now.
flood, watershed.
And I'll forward the email that she sent that better explains what they're offering through this. We had safety days last Tuesday and Wednesday. That went really well. And I have a paving and bridge update. So our Church Street Bridge hopefully will get restarted in late July. I think I forwarded you that email because of supply issues. Shushan is going to Shushan Bridge is going to close on July 18th. And then the in-house bridges that we're doing right now, Hickory Hill and 74. 74 is progressing. We're waiting for beams on Hickory Hill. Ferguson Road is a town road in Greenwich that was part of the Culvert New York program. And there's been a lot of issues with trying to move that project forward. So they asked us if they could close the road for a time of not a whole day, but daylight hours of a day, probably 2 times, so that they can use the crane to move the culvert in because they're having trouble moving the pole.
Who's they?
The state. That's a state funded culvert program. So they called and asked that last week. So I don't have any problem because there are detour routes. 49 is a very busy road, but we need to get Ferguson Road fixed. So it's right next to the culvert is right next to our road. So it helps both of us to get that project going. We finished paving up in Granville on 24 and 25. We paved County Route 12 in Whitehall, and now we're working on 61 in Salem, to the Jackson town, which is on both sides of it. And next is 16 in Bordan. The County Highway Association, the town guys, has invited everybody. I can send that email out for the picnic. It's at the Cambridge American Legion on August 4th. I am the co-chair for the Transportation Committee at the New York State Association of Counties, and they have a conference with a meeting for the Transportation Committee, among other things, in September. Buffalo, that was not on my travel plan when I submit my budget. So I'm asking if it's okay if I go to that conference.
Dave make a motion, Sarah seconds. All in favor? Opposed?
And then I have one other thing that I wanted to maybe have you all consider is, do you know where Sandgate, Vermont is? It borders Jackson and Salem. So last summer, there was a big storm that washed out a lot of Salem and Sandgate roads, as Sue remembers. And Sandgate has managed to get FEMA funding. I think it's $500,000, but they don't have a truck to use. So they asked us if there was anything we could do. One thing that I came up with is we have truck, I think it's 92042, but it's the last Army truck that we have. We don't use it in the summertime because doesn't fit into our paver, it doesn't fit into our shoulder machine. And I was wondering if maybe we could offer that to them to use for their FEMA project if they pay us rent.
Nice. I'll second.
Motion second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
I did want to ask, does we have to have one of those agreements, MOUs or MOIs, or whatever it is?
We'll
And
work
that's Vermont, right?
Or, I think we can insure something that we see it, identify us if they want somebody over. They'll have all our bad.
Yeah, they have the proper training and stuff.
Yeah, licenses, all of this.
Well, I appreciate you doing that because they're kind of in a pickle with theirs.
We're downstream, so it's in our interest.
Yep. That's all I have.
I have another, but if you have one.
Well, I had, back to the paving there and we have the Greenwich supervisor on. Is the state gonna do anything in the village of Greenwich on 29? Cause I've had about 10 people yell at me for, you can't hardly go down through without losing a wheel in the ruts and the potholes
In Greenwich?
in Greenwich.
Where?
Yeah. Well, going out towards the Salem direction for
Oh,
one.
that's really bad.
Yeah, so I was wondering if they're at least gonna patch it.
I don't know. Bob, were they doing something in Argyle finally today?
Today.
Well, they're tearing up the road and repaving it only down as far as the intersection. Because for some reason they feel they can't pave the rest of it because there's no curbs or something.
It costs a lot of money to make things ADA compliant. So, that's part of the reason.
Perhaps, but they paved it pretty well for the past 100 years.
Well, we have ADA compliance now. And yeah, that's what that is. What that is, but I will check into Greenwich because I do see them coming out on 29, going towards Salem, how bad it is.
Dan?
Yeah, this, I don't know if it's a county issue, but I think it's something I would like to find out. Our town highway department, we had some damage on a vehicle, actually 2 vehicles, replacing the culvert on town roads. And you know how after they replaced it and they put their crushed stone on top, let it settle for a month or 2, then they come back and dig it out and go get the blacktop. They might do 2 or 3 on a road. The signage is never right. And we had a car fly through one because the men all got in the truck to get the blacktop together and they had a cone out on each side of the end of the culvert. They took an oil pan off one car and another one had been a rim on. So I say all that to find out, is there other towns that have this issue? And when I went to my highway superintendent, I said, get some signs made up. He said, what should they say? I'd love it if the county standardized signs for different situations on roads. And so I could go to the sign department and say, I need 3 or 4 signs to notify motorists when we're working on a culvert of some type. And it ought to be a recommended sign by our safety officer or somebody.
Well, there's a thing called the MUTCD, that's the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And I'm guessing that it would be a pavement end sign there, but I don't know what it tells in the MUTCD. So if he wants to reach out to Matt can help him, whatever signs he
There's a
needs.
roadwork sign too. You know what she's talking about is the poster that shows all the different signs.
Yes, but the point is, should we have some of these made up and give these options to the highway superintendent at safety days that are somewhere? Because my highway superintendent didn't know when he should put on the sign, and I don't know. Now my job to figure his job out, and I didn't know if the county standardizes these, then be easy. I go right up, hey, I need 3 of these or 4 of those. I don't know, am I saying this right to you?
You are.
Some highway superintendents don't.
All we're gonna do is pull the book out, Damon, so we can get them hooked up with the right book. And that's all Phil would do is pull a book out and go, okay, flip, what's my situation? There's the sign. Here's your sign. Maybe that was confidential. So it's very, very standardized. And when something goes wrong, the first thing the lawyer is gonna look at it the other side, he's gonna pull out the book, and he's gonna go flip where your signs and where they're placed and all that good stuff. Now, how many feet ahead, if you're using the flag man, all that good stuff. So and other than giving him a copy of the manual, I mean, it's going to be, every situation is going to be a little bit different. So you have to look at the book and make sure you comply with the book, because it's almost a great thing because there's a book answer for almost every occasion. So all you got to do is, if he doesn't have a book, that's your first problem right there. You should have a book. So then you can flip through it. And then
Okay,
he has
that's
a
my
question
first
about,
problem. You identified my first problem.
Yeah.
I don't have the book.
right,
I
he doesn't
don't
have the
think he
book,
does.
and that's going to make his life tough because he's not going to know how far. Because we'll come out and do like flagger training and sign training, but we're gonna, that way where we get that information from is the book.
And where do you order the book from?
So it comes from, well, Cornell Local Roads has one. I might have an extra one in the office, but I'll bring it up at the next Town Highway Association meeting.
Okay.
And
Find out who
try to
doesn't
get
have
some
the book.
books. It probably is.
Yeah, but you know, some highway supervisors don't do that. don't do the website. I mean, most do. Mine should, but I'm not gonna.
Supervisors don't, why should we first our employees?
But the point is, I guess it's accessible, and what you're really supposed to do is you're supposed to sketch out a work plan and everything for each time you go out there and say, okay, here's my work plan, here's my thing, so many feet back has to be this sign, so many feet back has to be here, here's the intersecting road, there should literally be, it doesn't have to be an engineered drawing, but a pencil sketch of where everything goes, and we'd certainly, be happy to look at that and see, and have Phil look it over.
There you go.
But he's gonna check the book. So if you have the book.
It'd be
first-
good if we standardize everything within the county.
It is.
And I like that. Oh, I know. I'm hearing all that.
You just have to learn.
Phil did a presentation just recently over in Salem town.
He's in the,
Right.
it's a little different down there.
Yeah,
where
we-
signs go.
Right, we've done for flags, but I'm saying, but for, sometimes you're not flagging, sometimes you want to tell people, hey, there's something up there. So there's one time this is well before you, we had a bunch of floods and everything washed out. And we were closing roads and we didn't have a road close sign, but we had a bridge out sign. And so we put it on the road and the guy drove up to it and he goes, there's no bridge on this road, drove around it and then into the thing and it washed out. And said, you should have had a road closed sign, not a bridge closed sign. And we said to him, well, the blinking barrels, the giant fence and the loader that was trying to block you off. Maybe he didn't want to go down there. But that wasn't the manual, it didn't end up hurting us because common sense also is, but there's a book and that's what we use because that's what's going to be used against us if we don't use it. So you just got to figure out how to access it. Sometimes like codes and things, you have to subscribe to it. Somebody's making money off it. So I don't know if this is one of those books, but
Yeah, that's great.
we can see about, all right, if it's free, then we can see about getting everybody to look.
Yeah, don't you? We have like a framework job safety plan, checklist.
I think. So.
Oh, we did, so that's part of there's a format for regular job safety plan. We talk about getting a huddle, you're gonna do a job, so you evaluate the conditions and the terrain and you come up with a quick plan. There's just a checklist, it's fairly fundamental, but if you follow it and fill it out, it talks about signage. Yeah.
I'll find it.
Several things. That might just a good tool for people to use to make sure it's not just the motorists, it's also our employees who are out on the road doing work, trying to protect them.
Who is your insurance company?
None.
If you talk to them, they will set you up because they're the ones that get the claims on the damage to the vehicles. So they will tell you what you need to do to protect yourself. In Hartford, we had a sign, road construction ahead. That was left up over a year because they weren't going to finish the job until next spring. So we left the sign up for the whole year, even though they weren't constructing it for a while to protect our liability.
Is there anybody have any others?
I do. County Route 19, Shine Hill Road. There's a property there, 336 Shine Hill Road.
This is the first bin.
This is the dumpster that's right in the
Oh, is
county.
it too close to the road?
Last winter, I had him move it because the dumpster was parked right in front of guy wires for a utility pole. And I was afraid the county plow would hit it, send the dumpster flying into guy wires, break the utility pole, have power outage. The dumpster was removed for a short time. Now it's back. But it's the kind of dumpster where the truck comes in and lifts it up and dumps it like that, the big one. And it's probably 2 feet off the fog line. And it's whenever the truck comes and get it, it always moves a little bit each week, 2 weeks, whatever, but it's not in a safe place.
Yeah, if it's a safety hazard in right away, then we just.
But I think it's not a town road, it's a county road. So I think maybe if somebody
336.
looked at it and said something to them, they need to put it in a different location. Plus it's got an ugly, right? I don't know why residents has a dumpster week after week after week. It's a tiny house, it's a one car garage house. They built a house out of 1 car garage. It's not like they have a dumpster half the size of their house.
Maybe they have a garbage factory.
A lot of pizza boxes.
Burn those.
Does anybody else have anything for DPW? Hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting.
So if you want to do your internet research, Google and whatever that nifty, whatever it is, and it shows you the watershed